What's up, FlowChat fam? Chris, CEO and co-founder of FlowChat. These spotlights are to spotlight the incredible talent that we have within our community. Please listen in. Please lean in, and you're going to learn from the best. These are real people on the front lines getting real results, and today's FlowChat member spotlight is no different. He's closed hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions of dollars in his career. He's been speaking all over the world for maybe almost 2 decades, certainly over a decade, and he is going to show us what has been working with FlowChat and in his business and what this new fire that he's created, and this is why you guys got to meet Bryce. What's up, Bryce? How's it going, man?
What's going on, Chris? I'm excited to be here, man. Thank you for having me in.
Yeah, 100%, man. We were getting to catch up a little bit, like backstage. Is that how it works? Like online?
Yeah,
That's right. And like, check out his hat, guys. Check out his hat right there. Coach Sharpen. That's like how most people know you, right? Or actually, IG tag, right?
Yeah, that's my IG tag, Coach Sharpen. Yep.
Check him out on IG. Follow him. See what this guy's doing. It's hard to put everything he's doing in just even one conversation. You guys are going to get a ton from listening to Bryce today. Hey, we always dive right in. We always dive right into the results. You got some apps coming in. You closed 6 deals. First off, congratulations.
Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Sean, and your partners over there. Like, gosh, I wish I could say I was in the day-to-day of it, but to see the capacity and what can be done with this thing, I mean, the sky's the limit. So I'm excited to be a part of this, mastermind and community. And so thank you.
Well, hey, man, we're grateful to have you in there. Everyone listening, watching this, Bryce he's always there. He's always bringing the heat, the fire, bringing the energy up, and it's just weird how results magically follow this guy. So speaking of results, I know, like as you mentioned, you're not quite in the day-to-day using FlowChat. You have your team in place that's running it, but if you could walk us roughly through the conversation or the flow that was helping you get results, just so other people can hear that and replicate it in their own way.
Yeah, thank you. So, first things first, I trust the process. So if you're in here and you're just getting started, like, do what Chris and Sean say to do. Like, just do that, right? Like they say, send a friend request, send a friend request, send an engagement that's different than the other 100,000 people. And that's what we do, instead of, hey, so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. We change it up and we're like, gosh, I love your banner pick. I think was the one I seen you guys say to do. And so we actually were like, I think we changed it to your third profile pick just to get them to be like, what was my third profile pick? Like something crazy off the wall, and then ask them a question. And so, my model is very similar to yours. Keep it stupid simple. Keep it stupid simple. Make it about the other person. The old saying, right? Like, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
Make the conversation about the person that you want to engage with, and you'll get them to engage. That's as simple as that.
I thank you for sharing all those things. You hear us talk about those things quite often, but I think some people need the confidence. They need that reassurance of saying, really what we help people do is if you're at an event or you're just talking to somebody in person, how natural, how human it is. And it's just giving permission to people to have that same type of feeling in DMs. And it does work. And you do get responses and engagement. So for you to be like, well, we just closed over $250,000. It is really just from being a human. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. Approach them the way you want to be approached. Like,
that's crazy.
It's cool that it's as simple. So I appreciate you just communicating that. Now, can you let us in a little bit more around the offer and what that conversation sounds like?
Yeah. So the particular offer that we're using is for a book collaboration. And so I just recently, one of the masterminds that I'm in the real estate space, for those of you that don't know, and I have been known to flip tens of thousands of homes completely virtual. That's right. So I get invited to these really cool masterminds where I speak and tell them all about this stuff. And I had an opportunity to network with some pretty cool people like Don Hobbs from EXP, Ryan Serhant, from Sell It Like Serhant, or $1 Million Listing on Bravo and HGTV, right? And we're all kind of in the same circle of masterminds and coaches and speakers, or at least least in my circle. And I'll never forget, I was at a mastermind. I was introduced to Ryan and we just hit it off. And I'm like, how many books have you written? Oh, you got 3 like New York Times bestsellers. And I'm like, well, I've got 1 Wall Street Journal bestseller and 2 Amazon bestsellers. Like, what's the difference? What was it for you? We just clicked. And next thing you know, my publisher and I partnered with Ryan Serhant to do a book collab like mastermind. It was a great idea.
So cool.
We don't need the money. So like 100% of the profits from the investment are going to Classrooms for Hope, which we're building homes and schools over in India. And so it's a really good project, right? And we get to hang out with people that we want to hang out with. And so it started there. And now what we're using it for is to put realtors into our pipeline that want to be a part of that. 1, write a book. 2, be in a mastermind with some amazing people. And 3, get trained by some of the coolest people in the space. And so that's what we're using it for. We just really got started, actually actively pursuing this over the last like 30, 45 days or so. And here we are with tens of thousands of opportunities in the first, like, what do you call that? The first card, right? The first card row. All that fancy technical work, right?
Simple. Things got to be simple. Column, stage, card row. I love it, man.
Yeah. Card row, you know what time it is.
You know what time it is. Look, just quick shout out. Look at this sign. He says, you know what time it is. This is his phrase. Look at he's got the sign that glows right there. I don't know. We need you need an affiliate link for whoever's making those signs for you, but that's awesome, man.
Yeah, we actually give them to all of our coaching clients. We usually name them something, like a hashtag or something, and it becomes their thing. And usually 2-3 months down the road, we send them a cool neon. It's kind of cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So that's really what we're using it for. We're definitely not using it to its full capacity, but it's working really kind of cool. Like, it not only attracted some really cool agents that have really cool networks across the country, but in the last couple of weeks, we went from just Ryan and I being business partners in this book collab with my publisher to, we just brought in Don Hobbs, who is one of the marketing and like vice presidents of eXp Real Estate. We're not trying to recruit agents or anything like that. That's always a question, but it's like, no, I've got a couple voice recordings that my team uses when an agent does that. It's like, no, I'd love to have you on my team. I'm with this brokerage, but I'm not recruiting. Matter of fact, I'm in the process of changing. So don't trust me to follow me on that matter, but I've got some really cool stuff, whatever. I don't remember what the voice note is. And, it's been really neat because not only has Ryan and I got our own circles, we've been able to attract not only Don Hobbs, but Ryan's assistant also wants in. You see her on TV all the time with him. Sharon Cohen, I think it's her name. Cohen? I don't know. I didn't broker that deal. She's pretty amazing, though. I've met her like twice. And then Elena Cardone, like Grant Cardone's wife, is partnered with us on the front page of our website and all those fun things. And so it's been really exciting what FlowChat's been able to do for us, but also with us and what the community that we've been able to build by utilizing and leveraging the tools that you guys provide. So.
Well, just something to highlight of what you were saying it's really powerful is a lot of times people are using FlowChat for acquisition, which is great. It's an insanely powerful tool. It's what we got us down this whole FlowChat rabbit hole. Like, we're using FlowChat, as you know too, everyone listening, watching, to even sell FlowChat. It's all organic growth. Like, there's 6-figure months just even using one platform, but obviously we've got 7 different platforms now you can leverage it on. So all these different things, but there's something that you're mentioning specifically. It is also for partnerships. It's also for JV deals or other type of alliance. We've even used it to reach out to different investors. We're still bootstrapped. We haven't taken on any investors, but we've booked multiple calls and started having some of those conversations. You can use FlowChat for multiple different type of conversations. And even like finding vendors, finding employees. We just brought on 3 new VAs yesterday, and
It's
part of how
unfortunate.
we're about to do another launch for more appointment setters. So if anyone's listening, watching to this, and you're an appointment setter and you want to roll with, you're like, yeah. So all
What's
this
your
being,
VA?
yeah.
What's your VA flow?
What's your VA? Yeah, VA flow, appointment center flow. Like they're all flows, they're all conversations because that look and we were just talking about this earlier, Bryce. To accomplish something greater than yourself, it takes more than yourself. Like what you're accomplishing isn't what Bryce is accomplishing, it's what you and your team are accomplishing. And so, we've got that bigger vision. We're reaching out, having more conversations with more people. So as you're sharing that story, I'm like, whoa, like it's so cool. You don't. It's not just to acquire; it's also to form partnership that helps establish authority in the marketplace, and obviously that drives more deals. So, this all being said,
Let me
you're on the
piggyback that real quick. Hold
yeah
that
yeah go
question.
go go
To piggyback and add to that, like very similar to how we met, like in the very early stages, we're also using it not just to build the mastermind, but the community that might be potential in the future. Like we've got pop-up Facebook groups for realtors. And the minute a realtor sees like real estate information, marketing tips and tricks or whatever,
yeah
like they jump in. And guess what? They're jumping in to our pipeline at the same time. It's so cool. It's so cool. They don't even realize it.
yeah
And and it's
leveraging
not
it.
like sleight of hand. It's leveraging what they already want.
Yeah.
So pretty cool.
That I know you and I can keep going on this stuff. Yeah, the Facebook group having a place to nourish the prospects, potential prospects, future clients is really important. You mentioned real estate, and right over your right shoulder, unless it's like the setting where it's like mirrored, yes, REI results. Tell us a little bit more just about that.
Yeah, thank you. So that's our investment company. REI Results really was formed out of desperation and need, necessity more than anything, I guess you'd say. I was in a pretty bad partnership slash consulting role about 5 years ago. 10 years ago is even worse, right? I was homeless, sleeping in my car, and had this crazy like testimony and transformation to how I found real estate. I mean, I went from Fortune 500 business consultant to sleeping in my car in less than 2 years. And it was something that REI Results came out of necessity. I had helped build $100 million+ operation. We were doing really well, really well. And one day, the two partners and I had a very minority stake in it, more of a consulting role than I was a partner. And we had a tough conversation, and we were like, what are we doing? Like, I want to change the world. I want to share with people my story, like, and how we do it differently. And so that's my investment company, and I formed that literally within weeks of me getting married, buying a house, like doing all the big life events. My partnership and I like went separated and parted ways, and I'm like, I got to tell more people what we do. And so what we do is we help scale and maximize results for real estate investors. REI is real estate investment results. And how we do that is by leveraging very simple systems and processes where most people will fix and flip one or two houses a year. Some of the big guys will do, 20 or 30 a month. We're flipping, paper and houses, whether you're doing a wholesale transaction, which is just simply selling the paperwork like a realtor, but without a license, off market stuff, or actually closing and swinging a hammer. We're closing 45, 50 houses a month, and we're doing it completely virtual with a fraction of the team that most people have hundreds of thousands, if not thousands of employees that are doing 20 or 30 deals a month. And we're doing double that with 22 people.
22 people. That's crazy. If that didn't hook you at all, but if it did, well, I'll say it this way: if that did hook you, grab some of your attention, I'll share a screen here just because I know reiresultsacademy.com. It's the perfect time to like not skip past a couple of things you're just mentioning. We teach people how to flip more real estate without even driving to the properties. We were just joking a little bit before we jumped on. I was like, oh man, that one totally hooked me. I was like, because I mean, for at least I got him. I mean, where I'm at, like, I'm not trying to like get another like weekend project or distraction. Although I'm totally that visionary entrepreneur brain. I was like, this is awesome. This sounds like fun. Let's go. I was like, I gotta stay focused. One thing. But no, this is totally a good headline. You're just getting the results, and that's why you're here. That's why we wanted to share the spotlight. So if there's other people that are in the space or interested in it, I mean, combination of FlowChat and Bryce, game over. Let's go. For everyone listening, watching. So you can go to reiresultsacademy.com and learn a little bit more with all this. So wanted to share that with everyone watching. So it doesn't. I want to cover.
Yeah. Real quick.
Yeah.
People are probably like, without ever going to the property. Mind you, 10 years ago, I had to figure it out because I couldn't drive around and I was homeless and I didn't have a choice. I couldn't drive across Dallas, Fort Worth.
It's not just a marketing hook.
To get in my gas tank. I was sleeping in my car.
Hold on a second. Okay, so let's hang there for a bit. Okay, so this isn't a marketing hook. This is like out of necessity. This is part of your super. I was just about to go into like what makes Bryce. What's your superpower? You start with where you're at and you use what you have, and you build from there. And I know there's someone listening, watching that just needs to hear that today, because that think the ambitions and things that you've seen, you've heard, that's for you to move forward in, but you've been waiting on it for weeks, for months, or later, and it's partly because maybe someone didn't tell you that you can start with where you're at and you can go with what you have. And so, Bryce, how did you do that? You're in your car.
It's interesting how everything just aligns, right, with what you're saying and what you guys have been teaching for the last few weeks since prior to this recording, all about sales and sales teams and sales training. And you guys, if you're watching this, like, don't just take my word for it. Like Tony Robbins said a couple of years ago, I was one of the top 5 sales trainers in the world. And so I don't claim to know everything, but I know what it takes. And that is one thing that, what you just hit on there is going where the people are, right? Someone's current reality versus their desired reality is always offset by the results that they get, right? And so you may not feel like you're getting results. You may be stuck in your current reality. You need to go where your client's reality is. Go where they are. What are their pains, purposes, and needs? And when you can identify those, your reality starts to change. And that's where the name came from, results. Like I was in a tough place, but my place didn't matter. The people that I had to serve was where I had to figure out where they were, what they were doing. And sitting in my car and a computer at the library, found a couple niches in real estate. We've all heard no money out of pocket, buy real estate, you run people's money. It all sounds great, but when it boils down to it, how? Well, we need sellers and buyers. We need to connect them. That means there needs to be a connector. I can do that. So let me go talk to buyers, right? No, that's what everybody else teaches in this industry. Go talk to sellers. The more sellers you talk to, the more opportunities you create, the more contracts you get, and then go sell that contract to a buyer, or just find a buyer that wants to partner with you and do the flip, however you want to do it. I mean, we've closed just over 10,000 transactions, and I've only walked 5 properties. Put it in perspective. So
that's crazy.
I literally have only walked 5 properties, and like the first one, the third one, and then the last couple were actually in the last 2-3 years, in the last year and a half or so, the last 2-3, and that's just because we took them down and kept them for rentals and things like that. So I have to show up and talk to a tenant, every once in a while.
So go find the seller, build up inventory, essentially, desire, demand. Crazy thought. And where it's at, and then you're the connector. I love it. Focusing on serving the people first. The answer is not like just in your head and it's going to come out and then it's going to have this light bulb moment. It's like get into the market and start having the conversation with those people. That's really powerful. So you like when was the point where you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have to live in my car anymore?
Yeah. Um, so September 28, 2011, this is, several months before I found real estate. You said something about someone needing to move, and I feel like somebody needs to hear this. Like, I had just lost my wife a couple years prior, 5 businesses, close to $80 million, like flushed them down the drain in depression and alcohol. And I had a 40 cal sitting in my mouth that had never jammed before. It hasn't jammed since. And that night it jammed 3 times in my mouth. And in that
Wow.
moment, I knew that whatever it was, I had a purpose and a reason and a place in this life. And so that person that may be struggling with like taking that perfect action, there is no perfect action. You are here for a reason. And so if you just take even a baby step, you're going to be a little bit further. And I want to encourage that person right now to move forward. Now, getting back to your question, what was your question again, Chris?
Car. When was
Oh,
that
that's
moment
right.
where you? So I mean, that's a big transition. You're figuring it out, and then you know, when did you eventually make it out of the car?
Yeah. So literally, real estate didn't get me out of the car. I'll just say
Mm,
that. God got me out of the car.
mm,
And I hope nobody feels too much like I'm preaching. But the night that my gun jammed, I'm like, all right, bro. I talked to him like that. He's kind of gangster. I've seen him do some pretty cool stuff. I mean, a gun just jammed in my mouth. I'm like, all right, bro, I'm in. And as soon as I like succumbed to that, within 24 hours, I had an old client from when I was consulting years past in the Fortune 500 consulting space.
yeah.
I had an old client find an invoice and they wired me 20 grand. I didn't know it. Literally, that was a Friday night. On Saturday morning, my bank called me. Is like, you need to verify and validate some transaction. It seems there's some fraudulent activity. Go to a local branch. I went into a local branch and there's 20 grand sitting in my account. I'm like, I didn't do it. I don't know what that is. And then I started looking at, the identifier, like how they identify on your
Yeah.
account, like the merchant or whatever. And I'm like, wait. And I looked at my phone. I called this past client. I'm like, hey, did you guys mean to send me money? And they found an old invoice. And I'm like, okay, okay. So what does every good gangster do that's reformed and doing the right thing, right? Goes gets tacos. So I'm like
Tacos,
sitting at this
of
little
course.
taco shop, and me and my son, the middle school millionaire, um, him and I are sitting at this taco shop, and he's like 1 year old, and I'm like feeding him little crumbs, and I'm just like smashing some tacos. This is my first good meal in a while. And I get a phone call from this like crappy apartment complex that at one point I put an application in. And
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, we just had this opening. We got this promotion, no money down, no first month's or last month's rent. I'm like, wait, so you're telling me I can get 10 months for the same price of 12 months? I ain't got to put any money down. I did the math and I had 20 grand. That was going to be about 10 grand. I'm like, dude, I could pay for a place to live for a year and work my tail off, and I still got cash in the bank. So I moved in same day. Literally, that happened. Gun jam Friday
Wow.
night. Saturday morning, I got 20 grand. Saturday mid morning, late morning, I got a phone call from an apartment. I moved into this really crappy 1 bedroom apartment. And I just started doing some odd and end consulting, sales training with, a tech company, with a diamond manufacturer. And then I was on the computer at the library and I found this YouTube video on real estate. I'm like, let me see. And I'm
Wow.
like, well, let me try it. And I just started cold calling like for sale by owners and making Facebook posts. Like, how ironic. I wish I would have had FlowChat 10 years ago. I was making Facebook posts in groups and I started getting free leads.
Mm.
So I spent 20 minutes every morning joining 10 more groups, 10 more groups every morning, 10 more groups. And I would post in the previous day's groups that I joined. And by the end of the day, I'd get 1 or 2 hot leads. Let's go. Contracted 23 houses my first month. My second month made a
What?
couple $1 million. And I was hooked. Like, I only closed like 5 of those 23 because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
My third month, I found a local company, and as a consultant, I'm like, hey, I got a sales product over here. You guys are doing this thing. Let's do more. And they're like averaging, they've been in business like 10 years at the time.
Yeah.
And they've been averaging like 15 to 20 deals. I'm like, and you got a team of how many? They're like 10 people. And I'm like, I just did 23, and you do 10 to 15 every month, or 15 to 20 every month? Got a proposition for you.
Yeah.
The sales guy
I got an idea.
help me understand what I'm supposed to do with these contracts to make them actually all sell. And they were looking for acquisitions person. They offered me a job. I'm like, no, I don't want to work for you. I want to work with you. And I negotiated a minority partner in their company. But the contingency was
It's awesome. Yeah.
I do the same thing again. So I did the same thing again. They called me a couple weeks later. They're like, if you can do the same thing you did your first month, we'll make you a partner.
Okay.
And I contracted 37 houses my second full month. And we closed together after they showed me what I was supposed to be doing. I closed 35 of those 37 houses and I made a couple $1 million. I'm like, let's go.
Let's
And
go.
we did it all over the phone using social media. No software at the time like what you guys have with FlowChat,
Sure.
but now it's beautiful, right? Like now we can use it to leverage leads in HOA groups and buy, sell, swap groups. Like just imagine they're selling crap and buying cheap stuff. You think they've got problems in their life? They might have a property they need to sell.
Oh my gosh, man. That's freaking awesome. I haven't got to hear that part of the story yet. So thank you for sharing that, at least for me, but I know everyone listening, watching is probably just love. How do you not love this story? The part of like you're like, yeah, just do this again. You're like, okay, 37. You just up it again. You're like really show them what's going on. But I mean that's you, Bryce. Like I mean you show up in a big way every time. So, dude, and then from here, I think it's I'll end with like our final question here in a second. But I think it's really valuable for everyone to hear. You're getting results. You got that partnership. It continued to grow. When did the speaking? Where does speaking, the role of speaking, play into the story?
Yeah, so from like 1997 till about 2008, when I kind of lost my marbles after my wife passed, I had been a Fortune 500 business consultant, like Ford, Toyota, Nissan,
Mm,
Honda, Tyco Corporation. Chris Voss and I had partnered on a few things, doing some hostage negotiation. So like, I had already been kind of speaking and training. And then when I went through that valley to get to this next mountaintop, it was just a matter of people realizing and recognizing, some of the things that I had done, because it takes validation, right? Like you don't
yeah,
just get up on the stage with Tony Robbins. It just doesn't happen.
yeah.
I've been blessed with the ability to be in the right room with people like you and other people in our community here in FlowChat. And when there's synergy, like energy goes where energy flows. I truly believe
Mm,
that. And so if you've got this path of least resistance this way, that's where the energy is going to go. And so I actually went to a mastermind. This is kind of how it happened in the real estate coaching speaking space. I went to this mastermind and I was just talking to people like us good salespeople do. Ask better questions. That's a nugget for somebody out there. Like just ask questions. You'll figure something out. I was just asking questions, and the average person in the room was doing one or two deals a year. And there was like this big guru that came, and I happened to pick his ear, and I'm like, dude, so how are you doing it? And what are you doing? He's like, oh, we do 20 or 30 transactions a month. I know how to scale and build out a team. And I'm like, really? You know how to scale and build a team? Rack, repeat, assign a feeling or emotion, and ask a question. He's like, yeah. I'm like, tell me more about that. Like, what's the secret? He's just like, more people, more money. I'm like, really? So how many people you got? Oh, I think we're up to about 150, 160 people on our team. I'm like, wait, you got 150 people and you're closing 20 deals a month? Yeah, that's all it takes. I'm like, dude, you're doing something wrong. Do you mind if I share? Get permission before you tell somebody they're messed up. You don't
Zing.
want to. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, we closed like 62 transactions last month, and we have 5 people on our team. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, and how much, like, is that normal? He said, I think he said, is that normal? I said, well, let me look. And I pulled out my phone and I did the thing. And I'm like, we're averaging about 48 transactions a month. We got 5 people. He's like, dude. And next thing you know, I was down in Jamaica at an event with like 6,000 people 2 months later as the keynote speaker.
Wow.
And the rest is history. I partnered with Ty Lopez. We're doing some things in Puerto Rico right now, like building some communities down there, and Kent Clothier and Cody Sperber and all the names that have been doing it for 20, 30 years. Like, they call me in to teach at a very simplistic level because I'm trying to get as many people results as I possibly can, because I'm only going to be here another 75 years.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, but REI results, it sums it up, man. You're focused on results, and you do it by keeping things simple, and it came out so natural because you've said it so many times. RAC it was an acronym. Yeah. Do you mind covering that again real quick?
Do I mind? Absolutely.
Go to reiresultsacademy.com and
rewind this. Go back to it's repeat. So if you're in conversation with someone, if you repeat what they say and assign a feeling or an emotion and then ask a question, you will get more information. Great questions leads to great insights, and great insights leads to movement or action, right? And so, I'll give you an example. Chris, do me a favor. Like, the sky is blue. Throw a statement, just a random statement out into the universe.
Well, the sky is blue, but 300 days a year in Washington State, it's cloudy. Sorry, that was terrible, but it's something.
That was terrible. You sound frustrated. Why didn't you just stick with the sky is blue?
I'm not sure, Bryce.
Stop. So you see how you want to answer? You're like, and you're a sales guy. You know this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Intentionally, as soon as you put an emotion in someone's vocabulary, like in their head, they will either acknowledge it and talk more, or they'll correct you and talk more. So if someone says, yeah, my wife and I are going through a divorce, I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are getting divorced. You've got to be overwhelmed. What are you doing to get your mind off of things? Next thing you know, we're talking about fishing and the kids and all the things that don't have to do with the house. And now I know what they're for, so I can solve their motivation, right? So you just keep doing that 3 to 5 times around their things, right? Like, you guys do it so naturally. And so I just put framework around it over the last 20 plus years of training. It's like I'll use my wife as an example. Kathy's in here in FlowChat. She's going to listen to this and be like all googly-eyed over her husband. I'm just kidding. Love you, Bill. So Kathy, my wife, is a perfect example of like the consummate introvert.
Okay.
On Zoom calls with the mastermind here, she sits back, she's taking notes, she'll engage, she'll ask later or whatever, right? But
totally true.
Even Kathy, my wife, who is amazing, by the way, she recognized this simple framework. And she's like, oh, we should have better conversations. And so now she's like repeating what people says, putting a feeling or emotion, asking a question, getting more information, repeating, acknowledging, question, repeat, acknowledge, question, repeat, acknowledge, question. The next thing you know, you've got an introvert having a sales conversation and they close the deal. It's like, wait, I can do that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, sales is not salesy or sleazy. It's service, number one. And number two, it's just simply helping someone open their eyes. Like, I don't even believe in closing deals, Chris. I did a TED talk before TED was like TEDx and a thing back in like the mid 90s. And the TED talk was literally close or don't close, open. All having conversation is opening one's perspective to the need, wants, or desires that they already have. And I truly believe that.
Well, you live it, and the results follow. And I like the close versus open because you're not closing a deal, you're opening a relationship. And
I mean, they call it a commencement when you graduate, right? It's a new beginning. So maybe we should start saying, instead of always be closing, we should always be commencing, right?
Ooh,
Like
that's interesting.
that was in my
It,
TED talk back in like the long, yeah.
there we go. It's like, yeah, it's been around. It's dated. You can go check it out. I just wanted I wanted people to catch that because you're world class at what you do. And you said that, I love the example with Kathy being an introverted because some people think, oh, I have to be this other person. I have to be this personality in order to sell. Like even my personality profile doesn't fit usually like a top performer in sales, and I was surviving in sales before I even, like, I was 24, never sold anything. I was in the payment technology industry, didn't know anything about that. And after the first year, I was the youngest territory manager and holding the most margin per deal in a Fortune 900 company. And I was like, oh, I guess this is sales. And I was like, how am I still doing this? So
Yeah.
because there's patterns. And Rack
Yeah.
is a beautiful framework you put together. I know hopefully people wrote that down, and you'll take it. I know this will make Bryce happy. Go make a bunch of money with it. Hit him up on IG, Coach Sharpen, or find him on social and share the good news. Hey, as we wrap up here today, Bryce, thank you for the time hanging out with us and the FlowChat fam and serving in a powerful way like you always do. I'm always curious on what drives high performers. It could be an artist, musician, athlete, entrepreneur, whatever it is, right? The simple question is why? Why do you do what you do? For someone to put themselves out there, it's a really vulnerable place. I know you know. It's a roller coaster. Results. So why do you do what you do? Results.
That's exactly it. I want to see. My cup is filled when I get on stages with 5, 10, 20,000 people, and I see little light bulbs going off. Oh, like all the other people, I can't even feel or focus on their energy. But when I see light bulbs go off and results, that's why I do it. Because
Hmm.
I know that if we don't shine our light, somebody's going to get lost in the darkness.
Hmm.
I just know that. And so, that person that we spoke to earlier, if you're still here, like whatever you're going through, that shadow, there's a light casting it somewhere. Just keep pushing, just keep going, keep growing. Like I once quoted this from stage, and I'll end it with this.
Yeah.
You don't go to opportunities, you grow to opportunities. And
That's good.
I mean, that's why I wear this backwards crazy hat, because every time I do a live stream or a FaceTime or a selfie with somebody at an event, I have to look myself in the mirror first. It's not about anybody else. Am I doing the right thing? Am I showing up to the best of my capacity? So the reason I do what I do is because this is what I've been called to do. I wasn't called to sit on the bench and watch people go by. I wasn't called to punch a clock. And so if you feel like you've been called to start a business, if you feel like you're called to serve someone with a business, and you feel like your product or service is, that is a calling. And it's your responsibility, obligation, and more so opportunity. And why wouldn't you take it? You stepped out already, keep going. You don't fail until you quit. And so that's why I do it. I wake up every morning. I'm a big dude. I'm a tard muffin, Chris. I'll just use that word. Like I'm a goofball. You go look at my Instagram story right now. My wife brings me in my breakfast shake because I'm like doing this intermittent fasting thing, and I'm like got my foot up in the air, like, hey girl, I'm just a big goofball. I don't care because it's gonna make someone smile. I'm gonna make someone laugh, and I'm gonna make somebody a bunch of money and get a result. Like what? Like
That's
my
it.
son is 11 and he just closed his first deal and made
Yeah.
35 grand yesterday. Like
Let's
if he
go.
can do it, you can do it.
Let's go. I love it.
That's why I
11
do
years.
it.
Let go. It's and that's was that your Facebook page you're showing me,
Yeah, that was in
or
yeah.
one of your
So I
groups?
didn't catch the actual recording. I've got like 2 weeks of him cold calling in my Facebook group, Virtual Wholesaling Real Estate Tips and Techniques.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a private but free group. It doesn't cost you anything. It's marked private because I don't want all the all my competition be like hating on me, because
Yeah.
they talk trash. That's just people, right?
Always, always.
So it's private, so you can get in there and be vulnerable. You can get in there and role play. You can get in there and live stream cold calls, and my team will jump in and help you, and it doesn't cost a dime. And so my son has been cold calling in this group. It's called Virtual Wholesaling Real Estate Tips and Techniques. And so, yeah, if you want to check out the 11-year-old like closing deals and cold calling, he just closed his first deal yesterday and made 35 grand. So I'm pretty excited.
Boom. That's freaking. If everyone listening, watching here, you have an 11-year-old, you've got a 15-year-old, you've got an 8-year-old, watching a kid do that. Like I've got a 5 and 4-year-old. They're on their third business now. When my 3-year-old, my oldest was 3, we're going door to door, cold, not neighbors, and like, oh, that's cute. Here's what. No. He's making like big keychains so people don't lose their keys. I think you might have heard some of the story. I'll have to share it again for everyone listening, watching if they haven't heard it. But anyway, like entrepreneurship, the stuff you're teaching, your 11-year-old's doing it, making 5 figures already in one deal. That's just freaking cool. That's awesome to see, man. Thanks so much for coming out and sharing some of all of who you are, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I'm so passionate about it. Like, I said I'll end with that. I'll end with this. For those that have kids, I had a client once tell me, when you have children, they're watching you pursue your dreams. And it's 100% true. The way that you live, the way that you show up, the way that you achieve the dreams and aspirations of your goals, it doesn't impact only you. It impacts them. It impacts your clients. It impacts your kids. And so when you show your children how to push fear aside and run after endless possibilities that are available to all of us, you serve as an inspiration to them. You're responsible for shaping them. So when they believe anything is possible, anything's possible.
Mic drop. That was awesome, Bryce. Appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Take care.
All right, everyone, FlowChat fam, thank you also for spending your time paying attention to Bryce and myself today. If we talked about how he's got over $250,000 over the line, he closed 30 applications, 6 closed deals using FlowChat to form strategic partnerships. We went through his RAQ method, which was powerful, RAQ. Go back and watch that if you're just seeing the end for whatever reason. And also how the principles are so simple that even his 11-year-old is doing it, making 5 figures, closed $35,000 deal in commission. This is the spotlight of FlowChat, where there's crazy talent, real people getting real results on the front lines. Hey, we'll be back with more of the amazing entrepreneurs just within this community, because doing business, being an entrepreneur can be lonely, but it doesn't have to be. And the spotlight is this is the place to hang out and just get insight, encouragement from other entrepreneurs that are just like you on the front lines. We'll see you guys next time.